Vancouver Canucks are in the win column for the first time this season. They beat Florida 3-2 in overtime. We're here to break it all down on Rink Wide Vancouver. Well, it took them a little longer than they would have liked from the outset of the season, but the Vancouver Canucks do have that first victory, and it took them a little longer than perhaps they thought it might in this hockey. The defending champion Florida Panthers 3-2 in overtime. J.T. Miller plays the hero. Quinn Hughes played all night long, setting records as he went here. It's Jeff. Some angst in the marketplace about when this first victory would come. Hockey game, and there were some signs of things to build on for this Vancouver Canuck Hockey Club, and JT there to put an exclamation point on it with his second goal of the season and his first since opening night.
JT Miller, JT Thriller, JT Miller, the overtime hero for the Vancouver Canucks. Jeff, 10 overtime goals now for JT Miller as a member of the Vancouver Canucks. Only behind Daniel Sedin now in franchise history. Daniel with 16. I think JT is going to catch him by the time it's all said and done and lead in that category. Yeah, I mean, look, the first period, I think we both kind of sat here and looked at it and said, and they listened to their head coach, Jeff. They dug in. Yeah. They ended up digging in and led by their captain.
Outside of an 11-second stretch there midway through the first period, there wasn't a whole lot, but the teams traded goals. Canucks never trailed in this hockey game, and so when they took leads to the third period, it looked like they were going to take a lead to the third in this one as well, but Anton Lundell had other ideas with a power play goal that tied it at 2, but it was still right there for the taking for the Vancouver Canucks. And I tweeted out, I thought it was an important period going to the third. If they lose this one, like, what's the temperature in the marketplace here if they go 0 in their first 4 games as the road trip carries on here? But credit to them. They dug in, as you said, found a way. And it was JT Miller, his second of the season, from Quinn Hughes, and what a night for the captain. But before we really get into the details of Quinn Hughes' night, let's just take a quick second and look at that winning goal. It's 3-on-3 overtime. The Panthers are short-staffed. Obviously, Paul Maurice would love to have Alexander Barkov and Matthew Tkachuk in his lineup. He didn't. Credit to the coach of the Panthers. Look, this guy is among the best coaches in the National Hockey League, has been at this for a while. Going with 3 forwards, though, the entire overtime. Like, it wasn't just, let's roll for 3 forwards out there at some point. And I don't know if JT recognized that fact, but anytime you've got a defend or forward play defense, like you saw Jake DeBrusk attack the net with speed on the previous shift that led to penalties. But I think it's the Canucks. You had to do that. And Quinn Hughes with the drop pass in the neutral zone, JT flying up ice, gets around on that right side, a left-handed shot, and he made no mistake pulling the trigger. It's Miller, his second of the season from Hughes and Besser, 2:09, the time of the winner, and the Vancouver Canucks with the victory now 1-2.
He likes the wrist shot from that side. He likes the slap shot from the other side. So JT Miller obviously can work both sides there, but yeah, you mentioned that, and you got to think it was a design play. I mean, that might be a Paul Maurice flex, being like, we're the Canucks champ or the Stanley Cup champions. I can do whatever I want right now. Obviously, missing a couple of guys there that he would like to have, but Quinn recognized it. And then why not have the guy that is probably your best shooter when it comes to moments like that and flying down the ring and off the rush and things like that. So again, we're going to get to our 3 stars later, but my star of the game is obviously Quinn Hughes for what he did and just how much. It's led by example once again for him. And JT Miller, we talk about him so much in different hockey games and how much he means to this team, but he really is the heartbeat of this hockey team, is he not?
Absolutely. Rink Wide Vancouver brought to you in part by Greta Bar YVR. It's a great time of the year for sports fans. Hockey season now in full swing, but it's not the only thing going on these days. You've got playoff baseball, you've got football, soccer, a lot of them on the same nights. You can watch them all at Greta. Greta's a great spot for all the games, home and away. We're going to be there for our Canucks Army viewing parties throughout the season, including the first one coming up on Saturday. Minutes from the arena come by before or after the game or the event. Check out the great street food menu, all the arcade games in there, weekly drink specials as well. Greta Bar is the place to be, 50 West Cordova. Greta Bar, let the games begin. We've seen this from Quinn Hughes since he was named captain of the Vancouver Canucks. He gets it. He understands his role, the significance, the impact that he can have on hockey games, and we saw that again here tonight. This is a guy that played more than half the game the other night against the Philadelphia Flyers when Tyler Myers went down on his first shift of the night. Quinn stepped up. I talked to him on Saturday. I said, how you feel in the morning after playing 31 minutes and 29 seconds? And he was like, I'm fine. They tell me when to play, I play. No big deal. In this one, he did it with his legs, but he did it with the stick as well. Scores on the slap shot to put the Canucks up 2-1, 6 minutes into the second period. And then he does get the assist on the Miller goal. So 2 points for Quinn Hughes, but that's not really the number that jumps off the page when you talk about the captain's work here tonight. 26 minutes and 58 seconds. So another heavy workload for Quinn Hughes here in the early going. A career high 9 shots on 14 attempts. So he's been shooting the puck a lot. A bunch of them have been blocked here in the early going. He found a way to adjust, to change the angles, whatever. He was getting shots through and on net all night long.
Well, on his goal, Jeff, we'll go back to it. I mean, he had the first one blocked, right?
Yeah.
Blocked by the forward there, and then it comes right back to him, reloads, like you mentioned, find the angle and able to find the back of the net. He must have been listening. I mean, he heard us talking about how all his shots being blocked and the ability for him to go and do that, but finding lanes and adjusting and watching film of yourself and watching video of what you can do to try and get pucks to. I'm sure, Adam Foote obviously is talking to him a lot about that, but 9 shots on that. 7 was his career high before that, so he beat that. And you know what? I think that 9, if Quinn Hughes is on, like Quinn Hughes is on here against the Florida Panthers, what's to say he can't get 10, can't get 11? I mean, I'm not entirely sure you want him shooting that much every single game, but if it's going to the net, you put pucks on net, good things happen.
Well, I'll tell you what, if he shoots the way he did to score on his goal, I'm fine. Or if one of his 9 shots was a 61-foot backhand from the right point that went over traffic on a first period power play. It was the only shot the Canucks registered on the power play. Look, they won the hockey game. There was a lot of good here, but as we just look at Quinn Hughes' night, the power play was 0 for 2. That's been an early season concern because we were wondering, where's JT, where's Elias Pettersson, where's Quinn Hughes, where's Brock Besser in terms of racking up the points, Jake DeBrusk as well. Power play a work in progress here. It didn't have anything going in the first period, and it was just kind of funny. We made note of the fact that the only shot of the first power play tonight was Quinn Hughes. Yes, it got on net, but officially in the books is a 61-foot backhand.
Yeah, and it was funny. I mean, I remember looking at you and saying, that's going to count. And lo and behold, it did. Yep. But I think the power play, the reason why people might get frustrated and people are thinking about it and talking about it a lot is because of the weapons that they have on it. And they just can't seem to find a way to connect the dots there. Look at early points of last season. The power play was operating at a nuclear level, Jeff.
Yep.
And it's the same guys pretty much, minus, Jake DeBrusk is now in there, who is a goal scorer. So whether he's in the bumper, whether you're moving guys around, whether Brock needs to be in a different position than he was last season. He was the guy that was kind of in front of the net, that was always banging in the loose, dirty pucks and things like that. So, I think that when you look at the power play as a whole, it's just trying to make things happen. They kept it to perimeter, and that's kind of been the case for points this season.
All right, we want to know what you have to say about this one, what you thought of this one. The Canucks' first victory of the season now in their 4th game. So 1-1-2. They got 4 points in the standings in the 4 games they played as they move on to Philadelphia and then Chicago. So hit us up with your feedback in the Great Clips inbox. We want you to be a part of what we're doing here at Rink Wide Vancouver. So whether it's in the live YouTube stream, in the chat there, or whether it's any of our social channels that you see on the screen, we want your feedback, your thoughts on Quinn's night. JT Miller coming through on the clutch for the Vancouver Canucks. What did you like and what didn't you? I'm stealing a question from Irf that we'll get to a little bit later on here in this hockey game. I do think the Canucks deserve to win the game. When you look at the final numbers, the shots were 32-28. So, fairly even. And obviously it's 1-1 after 1, 2-2 after 2. So on the scoreboard, it was pretty even. But Irf, when I look at my notes in the third period, and I just want to run through the opportunities that I jotted down. Brock Besser with a point-blank slap shot early in the third period. And Sergei Bobrovsky there to make a save. Puck got through him, but he was able to reach back and haul it in. Nils Höglander off the post from Connor Garland off the rush there. The high flip through the neutral zone. The Panthers sort of caught flat-footed, and Höglander was able to benefit from a bounce. He came to that close to putting the Canucks back in front of the third. It remained tied. Then it was Nils Amon driving to the net, and Quinn Hughes spotted him there, centering pass, and Amon able to redirect it on goal. Another save by Bobrovsky. And then JT Miller, alone in front of the backhand, set up by Brock Besser, and Jake DeBrusk getting a turn with those guys with about 5 minutes to go. So there were all sorts of opportunities. And even if the Canucks had lost this game in overtime or a shootout, it would have been disappointing, and maybe the tone would be a little bit different. But I thought there was a lot to like in that third period, where coaches always talk about the process. Thought the process was really good in the third. According to Natural Stat Trick, the scoring chances 7-4 in the Canucks' favor, and the high dangers 3-1. So they gave Florida next to nothing in the third period, and certainly had their opportunities. It's just a matter of fine tuning and tweaking enough to get a few of those to go their way.
No, absolutely. And when you look at it, the Florida Panthers, they're the defending Stanley Cup champions, so you have to take them as what they are. I know that they're not with Matthew Tkachuk, and obviously, Barkov's not in the lineup, but they have an all-world goaltender. And I think for the Vancouver Canucks, putting those shots on Bobrovsky, learning what way they did the night before against Andrei Vasilevsky, but putting the pucks to the net and making good things happen, that's one of the things that is happening there. My stream cut out, but I guess we're back up and running here as we go into our YouTube chat and our social channels. A lot of people, Jeff, with a lot of things to say about this Vancouver Canucks team. I mean, a lot of people commenting. Nils Amon, yeah, well, we'll talk about him a little bit later on in this. But Petey, Elias Pettersson, what did you make of his game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in this camp that the bar is pretty damn low for him right now in this marketplace, but there were a few moments. He had a great scoring chance himself. In the first period, alone in front of the net. And he had his chance at one end, and then Sam Bennett off the post at the other. In fact, I think maybe they both got a piece of the post there. I'm not sure about Pettersson's. Never really got a great replay of it, but it either just wide or maybe caught a piece of the post. And then in the second period, he sets up Jake DeBrusk off the rush, and DeBrusk got a really good chance looking for his first goal as a member of the Vancouver Canucks. Third period, he's out there as part of that line with Garland and Höglander. When I look at his night as a whole, 20 minutes and 15 seconds of ice time, just the one shot. Again, yeah. The shot totals are so low right now. 4 attempts, 4 block shots. So we talk about digging in. He led the Canucks in block shots. I'm not sure that you want him to be your leader in that category, but it shows that he's putting himself in harm's way and putting his body on the line at the very least. Yeah, I mean, in the low bar category, there were some moments here, but
they won the game. Yeah,
they won the hockey game. He got a shift in overtime. He's out there with the Garland and Hronek, just the one shift for him. And again, he's part of the power play, but you know what? Like, he's on the power play, but is he a part of the power play? He rarely touches the puck with the man advantage. It's almost like he's the forgotten man. The $12 million guy is the forgotten man on the power play. That makes no sense. So, yeah, I mean, look, he was fine. I think the team was overall pretty good. And when we've, knocked them for a lack of full 60-minute efforts, I think this was probably their most complete effort again. Never trailed in this hockey game, kept chipping away, took their chances in the third, and then in overtime, when they needed a goal, JT Miller steps up. So you asked me about Petey. I think he was all right. Again, there were a few moments, but you need a few more along the way here.
I think my thing with Elias Pettersson, let's look at this as a core group kind of question here. Brock Besser had 5 shots.
Yep.
JT Miller had 3. New guy, Jake DeBrusk had 3. And Quinn Hughes had 9. They won the hockey game, so yes. But Elias Pettersson has the one shot. You need him to be in that 3, 4, 5, 6 category. I know it's saying one of the things, maybe be selfish, but at this point, and it's obviously out there talking about when his last even strength goal was, his play and everything like that. But you want him to be a little bit more selfish. You want him just to shoot the puck. He was on that 2-on-1. Yes, he did make the great pass, but sometimes Elias Pettersson shoots that puck. So you hope he kind of can get back into that form, but that's just nitpicking a little bit. The Canucks did win the hockey game, and there was a lot more good than there was bad for Vancouver.
There's a lot to get to in this hockey game. I want to talk about Erik Branstrom and his debut and his deployment. I want to talk about the way Rick Tocchet started this game and some of the lineup decisions that he made. But look, Kevin Lankinen delivered the kind of goaltending the Canucks needed against Philadelphia in his season debut last Friday. Didn't get the win, a 5-round shootout. Ultimately, they fall a goal short there in the skills competition. So he got a point, but he didn't get a win. Hadn't had a win in the preseason either. So you know that he wanted to deliver a victory. It didn't matter who was in goal. They both, I'm sure, wanted to be the guy that got the first win of the season for the Vancouver Canucks. Turns out that it is Kevin Lankinen. And, 2 goals on 28 shots. Gets beaten 5-hole on the power play by Lundell. The Boquist goal, bit of a bad bounce. I mean, there's a wraparound that just comes to Boquist back door. There's not a whole lot that Lankinen could have done on that one. But outside of the goals, did he make the saves he was supposed to? Yeah, he did. And that's what they're going to need more of. And we'll see if there is some sort of emergence as a 1 as opposed to a 1A, or if they continue this tandem. We thought that he would keep the net after the performance against Philly. That didn't happen. So who knows who they go to against the Flyers on Saturday. But on this night, Kevin Lankinen delivered the goods for the Vancouver Canucks. Another strong performance.
Winning, you're in? I think at this point, yes.
I'd be down with that.
Yeah.
Like, Rick Tocchet surprised me the other night.
Yeah,
and I know they didn't want to leave Silovs sitting for too long, but now they get into a rhythm of games here. They've got a game on Saturday. They got another one on Tuesday to finish out the road trip. I could easily see them coming back with Lankinen. If he wins, then keep riding him. If he doesn't, then you go back to Silovs in Chicago to finish up the trip on Tuesday. But I just like, man, the guy is aggressive, plays the puck, wants to play the puck a ton.
He's done a lot.
Yeah. But, at the end of the night, I just look at, gives up 2 against the Flyers in 65 minutes of hockey. He gives up 2 here against Florida. If he keeps doing that, the Canucks are going to win their share of hockey games if their goalie only allows 2 on a given night. So, another, I think, big step in the right direction for Kevin Lankinen. The longer this goes and the uncertainty with that Demko, the more that addition late in camp at under $1 million, I think it's going to continue to prove its worth for the Vancouver Canucks.
Jeff, let's talk about Arshdeep Bains, because a lot of people in our YouTube chat and on some of our other social channels are kind of, not lamenting at his game, but what is the Arshdeep Bains experiment, and are we going to have to go away from it soon? He's earned a call up, obviously, to be with a big club. He had a great camp, great rookie camp, great camp. Obviously earns a look, but at some point the Canucks have to switch up their lines, because I didn't really think he did that much on that top line again here today.
Yeah, 14 and a half minutes. Didn't play a lot in the third period as Rick Tocchet shortened his bench, so I'm not surprised that he was one of the guys that didn't see a ton of third period ice. No shots on goal.
Yeah.
You're playing with JT Miller and Brock Besser. You'd like to think. But Brock's shooting the puck a ton. And we talked about Brock had 5 shots on 9 attempts. So puck seemed to be funneling to Brock Besser. Look, Arshdeep had a nice camp. He's been a terrific story. But at some point, he has to be more than local boy does good and makes the Vancouver Canucks, right? If he's going to keep his spot in this lineup, I don't want to see him in the top 6 anymore.
I agree.
I think that part of the experiment has to come to an end. I was surprised that Jake DeBrusk started the night really on the third line with Teddy Bluger and Kiefer Sherwood. Worked his way in the third period, so that when it's a tie game and they're looking for a difference maker, DeBrusk got shifts higher in the lineup and in fact played with Miller and Besser. I think that if he's not going to be with Pettersson, and that's one of the things that really surprises me. 3 games into the season, now 4, is just how much line shuffling and the lack of patience we've seen from Rick Tocchet with his group. But if you don't like what you've seen from DeBrusk with Pettersson, then don't put Jake DeBrusk on a third line with Teddy Bluger, with all due respect to Teddy, who scored tonight and got in a scrap, and we'll talk more about his night. But if it's not going to work with Pettersson, then the next step has to be giving him a shot with Miller and Besser. And for Arshdeep Bains to get in there and then stay in there, he'll hustle. And in the first period, he had a chance at the side of the net. Puck kind of skipped over his stick, but he also made a play in his own zone where he got pulled out of position and got trapped in no man's land. Puck came to Mikko Jokela at the left point, and he was able to walk in and wound up, got a big-time shot away. Lankinen made the save, but I'm thinking to myself, it was basically the same kind of play that got Daniel Sprong, punted out of the lineup, and we haven't seen him since. If that happens to Sprong, is Arshdeep Bains going to get the same kind of treatment? I wonder about that. If you want him in your bottom 6, the hustle and the energy and work rate and all that kind of stuff, great. Like, I'm not saying that he can't play for the Vancouver Canucks, but right now, 10 games into his NHL career, doesn't have a point. He's not a top 6 guy and shouldn't be put in that position. He shouldn't be in that spot. And the guys that are playing with him, they need more accomplished wingers as well. So they got to figure out where the best fit is for Arshdeep Bains. Is he a regular at this stage of his career? Is it spot duty? Does he come in and out of the lineup? We'll see where it goes. But I think I've seen enough of Arshdeep getting top 6 minutes with this hockey club. Yeah,
it might be time for, as Travis Robinson, as you said, Sprong back into the lineup. at some point here. I think you are going to see it now, maybe, but who knows? They won the hockey game, and that's another thing. Like, does Rick Tocchet want to stick with a winning lineup there as well? Michael Chow in our YouTube chat, Danton Heinen is a man of mystery. What's his deal? What does he do? I'm kind of starting to try and agree with our listener there.
Yeah, one of the low ice time men. Was he the low ice time guy for the Vancouver Canucks tonight? I think he might have been just 10 minutes and 3 seconds of ice time. Not a shot on goal. Lost his only face-off. 1 hit. Yeah, I had higher. He gets credited with an assist, though, on the Hughes goal. So I guess Amon wins the face-off. It comes to Heinen back to the point. I guess I expected a little more sort of notoriety on the defensive side of things, maybe a little more hustle and getting in on the forward check. Haven't seen a lot of that from Danton Heinen. It's early. We're not going to write the book on this guy, but as we go through our Steve Baines and a bit of criticism for his play at this point, yeah, I mean, Heinen's a far more accomplished player, and yet not seeing much out of him in the early going. Canucks didn't have to kill penalties tonight, and that was one of the stories as well. Just the one penalty, 1 minute and 1 second of power play time for Florida. They scored, but pretty good discipline. A long way from home for the Vancouver Canucks. Game got a little feisty there in overtime. Yeah. Russ took the puck to the net, but otherwise there wasn't a whole lot there. But that is an area I do think that Danton Heinen can and will contribute to the Vancouver Canucks. But yeah, I mean, this was just a really quiet night for him, as it was for a few others. But they win the hockey game, so let's try to focus on some of the guys that made an impact. And Teddy Blueger was one of them. Teddy Blueger has a share of the Vancouver, 4 games into the season, he has a share of the Canucks team lead in goals, opened the scoring, wraparound that needed a video review at first. I think we both thought, not quite.
It was close, yeah.
They found an angle, and there's no doubt, there's that one angle that absolutely shows a little bit of white between the goal line and the puck. So Teddy B with the wraparound. Video reviews were kind of a theme on this night. 2 of the Canuck goals both needed to be looked at. One was challenged by Paul Maurice and his coaching staff. And then there was the Evan Rodriguez at the side of the net with the wraparound that was reviewed, but it stayed out. So Canucks did all right in the review department in this hockey game. But Teddy Blueger getting into a scrap is like, you don't see that very often. I think somebody pointed out his 6th scrap in the National Hockey League. That's not what I think of when I think of Teddy Blueger. I think of a guy that plays honestly and play with intensity. But that kind of came out of nowhere. Again, it wasn't a game that had a ton of feeling. But for whatever reason, we saw a Latvian on a Latvian scrap, and there are some out there suggesting that that's the first time that has ever happened in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, and it's funny. Murph tweeted it out. I don't know if we can get it. Maybe he's having some issues trying to get it on screen for you guys, but they fought, and then they went and saw each other and hugged it out after the game. The 2 Latvians, a little Latvian love there between the 2 guys that ended up fighting during the game. But yeah, I mean, Teddy Blueger's consistently been there and been a guy that Rick Tocchet goes to and isn't afraid to trust, can play up and down the lineup, can go win faceoffs if you need him to. And he'll get to those areas, Jeff, where you need him to get to go score goals. And it's not the prettiest goal. It wasn't the prettiest night. They might not all be pretty, but when you need something, Rick Tocchet's shown that he can trust on guys kind of like Pius Suter as well. Guys that are down in the lineup that he knows he can trust. Teddy Blueger is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brock had 4 on opening night last year, and that obviously was a springboard to a 40-goal season. We're 4 games into the season for the Canucks, and their leading goal scorer has 2. Miller's got 2. Hughes gets his first, but Blueger's got 2. Besser's got 2. Garland's got 2. So there are a handful of guys that have 2 goals, but we haven't seen anybody really break out in a big way for the Vancouver Canucks. And, in the absence of your stars coming through and scoring regularly, you'll absolutely take contributions from guys like Teddy Blueger. Blueger got a goal in the Philly game that got them to overtime, and a single point there. He gets a goal in this one, and they end up getting a victory. So, he is contributing to the cause. And the other guy was Kiefer Sherwood with 10 hits, or double digits in the hit department for Kiefer Sherwood. And we're starting to see, when he hits, guys feel it. He lowers the shoulder, and he understands the art of the body check. There are some guys that'll, they rack up the hits, but I don't know that they really leave a mark on opponents. But I think Kiefer Sherwood's one of those guys, not the biggest guy in the world, but doesn't mind throwing the body in 10 hits in a visiting rink at that for Kiefer Sherwood tonight.
Took the puck to the face a couple times, one from his own teammate.
They don't count those as hits, but there were a few hits to the chin.
Yeah, shot on net, 12:57 ice time, gets an assist. He's all over the place, but that's the guy that they brought in. Now, I don't think he's going to get 10 hits every single game, but that's the guy that Rick Tocchet and Patrick Allvin thought that they were getting, a guy that can be tenacious on the forecheck, a guy that gets in, guy that gets in those dirty areas, and a guy that throws his weight around a little bit. And you mentioned, not the biggest guy in the world, but at 10 hits, I'm pretty sure some of those Florida Panthers players felt them.
Keep the feedback coming to the Great Clips inbox, a presentation of Great Clips with more than 4,400 hair salons throughout the United States and Canada. Great Clips, the world's largest hair salon, an official hair salon of the NHL. Salons are locally owned and operated, open 7 days a week. Your time is valuable. You can use the Great Clips check-in app, see the wait time, check in on your phone, and get your hair cut when you want. Check out greatclips.com. Great Clips. It's going to be great. And I'm sure it feels great for the Vancouver Canucks to get a victory in their fourth game of the season. So 1-1-2 now are the Vancouver Canucks. All right, so let's get to our 3 stars of this hockey game. The 3 stars as selected by the media down there in Florida. JT Miller gets the overtime winner. They throw him a bone as the first star. I'm not sure that he was anywhere close to the best player on the ice, but sometimes you'll see that the overtime winner has to be thrown together in a hurry. So JT is the first star, and then the goaltenders, Kevin Lankinen and Sergei Bobrovsky. Our 3 stars a little bit different, but we do have a goaltender in there. Quinn Hughes, again, just taking control of hockey games. We've seen it so often from the Canucks captain, and this was another night. A goal and an assist, the 9 shots on goal, 14 attempts in 27 minutes of ice time. There was nobody that had his fingerprints on this game more than Quinn Hughes. So Quinn Hughes is our first star. Sergei Bobrovsky for that third period alone. But ultimately can't stop them all because JT Miller beats him off the rush there in overtime. But Bob looking like playoff Bob, at least later as the playoffs unfolded, because the playoffs didn't get off to a great start for Sergei Bobrovsky, but he was really good in this hockey game. And there's Teddy Bluger, the goal, and scrap, so comes up an assist short of the Gordie Howe hat trick. And, we often do a honorable mention. Let's go with Kevin Lankinen as well, because he was that good for the Vancouver Canucks when the game was on the line. It was a question of, who was going to blink, and ultimately it was Bobrovsky that did, and Lankinen doesn't. He gets the victory. But there are our 3 stars: Quinn Hughes, Sergei Bobrovsky, and Teddy Bluger. All right, we've kind of run through the Canucks lineup here. I do want to talk about Branstrom, though.
Yep.
Because you were all over that story as he got the recall. Wild travel day, obviously, to get from Vancouver, to get from Abbotsford to Vancouver to South Florida. Before we do that, though, let's just go back to the way Rick Tocchet lined his forward groups up tonight, because we talked about Baines with Miller and Besser, Petey with Höglander and Garland, and they had their moments. What do you like about that combo, either on paper or what you saw on the ice today? Well,
I think the one thing that would be is that Connor Garland is the guy that was going to go get the pucks for Elias Pettersson, right? Yep. He's proven that he's a good forechecker, a guy that can wreak havoc in behind and in those areas where you want him to be. Höglander gets that ride with Elias Pettersson because it seemed to have worked in the past. Again, like I've said, RSG Baines is a great story and all of that, but as a top 6 player, I think he's better served as a bottom 6 guy on this team if he's going to contribute at the NHL level. Then you should just put. I would have loved to have seen Jake DeBrusk on that line with JT Miller and Brock Besser, even if it was just for an experiment. I get it. You want to balance your lines with players that you can trust up and down the lineup and things like that. So that's probably why Rick Tocchet did it. But yeah, I mean, the line as a whole of Pettersson, Höglander, and Garland. If Petey doesn't drive the line and Elias Pettersson isn't taking the game over and making his line mates better, I don't think you can insert a guy like Connor Garland and hope it's going to bring up the game of Elias Pettersson, or insert Nils Höglander. This one's got to be on Elias Pettersson to go and do that. I thought they were okay, but this one's on Elias Pettersson to try and make the people around him better.
Yeah, and we talked post-game the other night after the Tampa game, and Garland scored the only goal, and we said, without doubt, 3 games in, Connor Garland's been the best player. Of his 4 games, this was probably his quietest, and that's not a knock on him. I just think he had set a level for himself that he didn't impact this game. Now, if Höglander scores off the pass from Garland, maybe our conversation's a little different. And Garland, man, did he sell the shot there, and then able to slide that puck across to Nils Höglander, who comes that close to winning it winning it in the third period. And Elias Pettersson with a little touch pass at the blue line there. So again, there were moments throughout the game. I guess the other thing that I question Nils Amon getting in over Daniel Sprong, who sits for a second straight game. And I said I was surprised on Tuesday that it had gone to that level for Sprong, that he had come right out of the lineup. I guess I'm surprised again because Rick Tocchet has generally been a guy, Irf, who you send a message, that's the kick in the pants, and then get him back in the lineup in a hurry is the pat on the back to, the good cop, bad cop, whatever. So I was a little surprised. The team was struggling to score goals the other night, haven't scored a bunch since the first period against Calgary. For Sprong to sit out a second straight game in favor of Arshdeep Bains and to get Nils Amon back in the lineup now that Atu Ratu has been sent down to the minors, I don't know. I'm again, the Canucks aren't lighting up the scoreboard. Sprong is one of the guys that has scored. That's his role here. I know the issues around him defensively, but
he doesn't play Arshdeep either in the third period.
Right. I mean, so we see that when they're down, he shortens the bench. But Sprong, signed to play, and I think we all thought that the plan was going to be for him to be in the top 6 position early on. 4 games into the season, he's been a healthy scratch twice now. So really curious where it goes from here for Daniel Sprong, especially coming off a victory.
I think at some point he's going to get into the lineup. I think that Rick Tocchet is going to look at it and talk with his coaching staff and realize that the Beans experiment up there probably needs to end at some point soon. You're right, though. They did win the hockey game and they dominated and were good in the third period, but he didn't play much in the third period there. So if you're saying that you want to get a guy that can score goals and put puck in the net, but at the same time, he's also a guy that you haven't played in the third period as well. So it's an interesting situation that Rick Tocchet does find himself in, because you have a guy that's a top 6 forward when your team's winning, but if it's a close hockey game, you're not going to play him. And then you have another guy who isn't a top 6 forward, but you can't trust him in the bottom 6, which is why you had to put Jake DeBrusk there. So it's one of those things where you try and protect him, but you're looking to ways to win hockey games. Right now, they won this game. Does Daniel Sprong help you more than Arshdeep Bains in the long run? Probably. I think that's where you have to look at it, Jeff.
Well, we'll find out. Next game's coming up on Saturday in Philadelphia, and then the trip wraps up in Chicago. No Daniel Sprong tonight. No Derek Forbert, who has left the hockey club for personal reasons. Rick Tocchet, talking before the game, said he wasn't sure how long he would be away, but 2 more games on this road trip wouldn't surprise me if we don't see Forbert back on this trip, maybe for the home game when they get off the trip against Pittsburgh on the 26th. But I don't know any more than that. That's just mere speculation. Without Forbert, though, and we've been setting this up, let's get to Erik Branstrom, acquired in the salary dump, getting off of Tucker Poolman's contract. They take Branstrom and his 1-year deal in return. Starts with 2 games, looked really good down in Abbotsford, gets the call here. Partly because Forbert, a left shot defenseman, was out of the lineup, not available, but also we know the issues the Canucks have had transporting the puck, transitioning it, moving it out of the own zone. So Erik Branstrom, you can't get any tougher travel in the National Hockey League than Vancouver to South Florida. You've done it. I've done it. There is no fast way to get there. He traveled all day yesterday. Rick Tocchet mentioned before the game that he got in late last night, and I wondered if that was going to be enough just to let him catch his breath. No morning skate.
His gear didn't get there till later in the day.
So the first time he's on the ice with his teammates is the warm-up. Like, that's a big ask for anybody. And steps in, plays limited minutes. 11 minutes and 49 seconds, the final number for Erik Branstrom. And when you dig a little deeper than that, third period really didn't see the ice much. Just 6 shifts, 3 minutes and 33 seconds of third period ice. 1 shift in the final 7 minutes of a tied hockey game at that point. But, there were some flashes. I think there were some moments that he did what was expected. You and I both kind of laughed. His first touch of the puck
was an absolute grenade pass from Vinny Desharnais. He's 2 meters behind him. But, there's a reason why he's up, because of issues like that.
Yeah.
But welcome to the team, buddy. But anyways, I think 11 minutes and 49 seconds, like you said. He had a shot on net. He's not going to dazzle you like he did in those highlights of people watching in the American League where he was just dancing around guys. This is the NHL. He is an NHL defenseman. And you didn't notice him for anything bad, I don't think. And there were a couple times where he did move the puck out of his zone well. But yeah, you're right. In that third period, didn't play much. Neither did Vinny. They shortened the bench. They're trying to win that hockey game. But I think as time goes on and as he does get work with obviously Adam Foote and Sergei Gonchar and the rest of the Canucks staff, he'll definitely find a place somewhere, whether it's in the top 4. I'm not entirely sure, but I think he's going to be an everyday guy.
Yeah, I was curious to see, again, there weren't many special teams. Canucks had 2 power plays. Florida had 1. They've got Hronek, so it might be a bridge too far at this point to think that Branstrom's going to get a little power play time, although we've seen the Canucks roll out 2 defensemen on that second power play unit, and maybe do you give Branstrom a look instead of a guy like Carson Soucy? You probably do, so we'll see what the future brings here. But yeah, I mean, bottom line is he's part of a win. Didn't hurt the hockey club. Getting his feet wet back in the National Hockey League. This is a guy that had played 70-plus games in each of the last 2 years for the Ottawa Senators. You know, the underlying numbers aren't pretty, but part of that, I think, is the partner that he had there, Desharnais, getting back in the lineup as well, as we talked about. He's not the guy to be handling the puck on that tandem. Get it to Branstrom, let him do his thing. And he's not on the ice for a goal either way. So it's a push that way. And I think for, first impressions and a debut after a long day of travel and waiting to see if your gear was going to get there, all things considered, we'll give him a passing grade. I'm not sure that it was a whole lot more than that, but I don't think that there's a whole lot more in terms of the body of work to really dig into with Erik Branstrom, other than he's back in the National Hockey League, which is where I'm sure he believes he should be, and we'll see if he can build on this performance tonight.
Yeah, and I think he can. Travis Robinson in our YouTube chat, Saucy Soucy, still looked out of sorts. I do agree with that, because it's been a couple of games now where he's found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time yet again. And it's going to be something that we have to look at, and then we have to monitor more and more as it goes on. It's just awareness, being aware of who's on the ice, being aware of where you are on the ice. Maybe he was trying, as they scored that, as the Panthers did score, he was on top of his check there. Maybe someone was holding his stick. He was looking for a penalty, but even then, I think that, Carson Soucy can get a little bit better and elevate his game a bit more.
Canucks win it in overtime. JT Miller, the hero, 2 minutes and 9 seconds into OT. 3-2 is the final score. This segment of Rink Wide Vancouver, powered by Square. If you run a restaurant, you're too busy for this ad. You're thinking about how to get more orders flowing and new locations open. You need to get more customers and keep them coming back. So really, you're already thinking about Square, because Square Restaurant Tech helps more than 400,000 restaurants do all those things and more. When you're thinking about your restaurant, think bigger and think Square. Go to square.ca to see why Square is big in restaurants. All right, we did our 3 stars a little earlier. Let's get to the stat that stands out from this hockey game, because there's always things to come out of these games, whether it's on the score sheet or the underlying numbers. Sometimes, like this one, we want to point out that Tyler Myers played in his 999th career regular season National Hockey League game. Of course, with playoffs, he's up over 1,000, but it's 1,000 regular season games. It's that massive milestone that not many get to. And boy, when you think of the way he left Friday night at Rogers Arena, helped off the ice, we all wondered, when would he get to 1,000 games? It would probably be a whole lot later than he had anticipated, but he played 999 in this one. And so on to Philadelphia for game number 1,000 for Tyler Myers. And it's interesting that this comes, it'll come 2 days after his former teammate and buddy, and they're both Kelowna Rocket alums, Luke Schenn, playing his 1,000th game tonight in Nashville against the Edmonton Oilers. Yeah, and it's a huge accomplishment, right? For anybody in the National Hockey League to go and do that. The Canucks will probably have some sort of ceremony when this does get done. Although they might even have it against the Pittsburgh Penguins on the Saturday, right? The first game back from that road trip. So you can expect that. But yeah, I mean, what an accomplishment for Tyler Myers. And, he's a guy that, has battled some injuries. He's a guy that, has definitely taken the brunt of abuse online, especially in these parts for better part of his career. But in the last couple of seasons, in the last year, Jeff, he's managed to turn his game around. He's managed to find a niche. And obviously with the extension that he got from the Vancouver Canucks, now find a home here in Vancouver. Yeah, it's an incredible accomplishment. And you think of Luke Schenn being sent down to the minors and wondering if his career, was going to continue. And I think he was sort of at the 800 game mark then, and of course got the opportunity here in Vancouver and Toronto and Nashville for the last couple of seasons. So a couple of the really good guys in the National Hockey League. The league's full of good dudes, but Luke Schenn right up there at the top of the list, and Tyler Myers not far behind. So just wanted to make that a note here, because I'm sure we'll talk about it again post-game on Saturday, but by then 1,000 will have come and gone for Tyler Myers, so certainly something to look forward to. And I know it was on his radar. He talked about it in the preseason, and then when he got injured last week, I thought, oh man, this is going to delay that. But incredible that he's back and playing and helping the Vancouver Canucks get a victory as they did in Florida. What do you think? I mean, 4 games in, and we sort of qualify this for the first, couple of weeks of the season, just 1 game, it's just 3 games. Now it's just 4 games, but, the longer it went without a victory, obviously the temperature in a market like this one is going to go up, especially when some of the star players hadn't stepped up and left their mark on hockey games. Big picture, what do you think a win, the first win, does for this group?
It's a win. I think that's the biggest thing, right? You get that first one under your belt. You look at teams that don't have a win right now, and it's the Colorado Avalanche, right? And they've got all that firepower, and they have Stanley Cup aspirations as well, not too far removed from winning a Stanley Cup, and they haven't won a hockey game yet either. So I think the winning part of it is big, and I think the guys that you wanted to see go out and help and get that win were there. Quinn Hughes was excellent. JT Miller, obviously the hero. Brock Besser being a big part of this hockey game as well. Jake DeBrusk, with 3 shots. Kevin Lankinen was an important piece, being able to integrate a new defenseman and Eric Branstrom into that lineup as well. So I thought that getting the win is just that. It's that monkey off your back. And you mentioned especially, the temperature rises in certain markets and in certain places, especially here in Vancouver, if they were to lose that hockey game. But they went out, they were able to get it done and find a way to win. And I think that was the biggest thing as well.
Yeah, 4 games in, really nothing from Elias Pettersson.
Yep.
And no goals yet from Jake DeBrusk. Picking up points. He got an assist on the Blue goal. He's got 3 assists in 4 games. So the point total isn't terrible, but he's brought in to score goals, and it hasn't happened for him yet. So, I think as we're trying to assess and make sense of what we've seen here through 4 hockey games, those guys, they're going to figure it out. When Elias Pettersson gets it to a level that we sort of recognize as some of his best stuff. I don't know how long that's going to take. Everybody hopes that it's going to be the next game, and hasn't been yet. And DeBrusk will score. Like the chance that he had in the second period, he'll find the back of the net there sooner rather than later, but it didn't happen in this one. So the week goes on to Philadelphia for a game on Saturday. One thing we didn't talk about, we've talked about Quinn Hughes and his incredible night and all the things that he did. I think there were probably more than a few in Canucks Nation that were holding their collective breath there at the buzzer, the final shift of regulation when Sam Bennett got him in the corner.
Funny, Sam Bennett
looked
again.
a lot like Nashville in the playoffs last year, and it was generally Kiefer Sherwood and others then. But, you could see that clearly Quinn felt the effects of that hit and actually went down the tunnel, sort of walked it off. He was back for overtime and sets up the winner by Miller. So, no harm ultimately, but for a few minutes there, you just don't like to see Quinn Hughes exposed like that and take that kind of hit. Yeah, no, definitely not. And I mean, look, Sam Bennett's kind of known to kind of get his cross the line or play the game on the line, maybe teeter on the wrong side of it a little bit, but saw an opening, made a play. I mean, Quinn was kind of bent down a little bit as well, but it looked like he was, when he came out back just before overtime started, he gave it a go and kind of stretching out his leg, maybe like the hip area, whatever. Obviously, we're not doctors. We don't know. But the good thing is he makes the play on the game-winning goal, so you obviously know that he's fine. And now, as they go to Philly, they might get the day off. He might not even skate, but before their game on Saturday night. We have been talking about this for a while, and it's almost here. The first Canucks Army viewing party of the season comes your way on Saturday afternoon. The Canucks moving on to take on Philadelphia, and the Canucks Army Nation Network crew going to be at Greta. We're all looking forward to it. Greta is the home for the fans. Greta Bar, YVR. Doors open at 3, and tickets are going quickly. I'm not just saying that. We'd love to see you there and be a part of this and sort of build this community that we're trying to grow here. So if you want to get in, go to nationgear.ca. Tickets will sell out. It'll get to a point where you can't put any more people in Greta. So if you want to be there on Saturday, get your tickets before they're gone. Prizes, trivia, going to keep the energy buzzing all night. And this time we're doing it for a great cause, supporting the BC Mental Health Foundation. So don't miss out on the biggest kickoff party of the year. Be there, or you're going to hear about it all season long. nationgear.ca to grab your tickets. Now, I know you will be there on Saturday. You're not going to be here on Saturday. We're giving you the day off from Rink Wide. Patrick Johnson from Post Media is going to slide in as our guest co-host, and I'll have to lay down the law for him, make sure that he's got a Bet365 line of the
Absolutely.
game. I know that you were poring over the Bet365 website. What did you come up with?
I definitely was. Well, we're looking at it for tomorrow, not tonight and not what we have actively going on right now. But for tomorrow night, there's a couple of things that I want to take a look at. And interesting, I'm going to go 2 games again on the old parlay there. We do have, I believe, I can't remember who I took, Jacob, if you could pull it up right now. I think it was the Colorado Avalanche, yes, to win their first game. Keep going on the Colorado Avalanche. And the Penguins to upset the Carolina Hurricanes. So I think that that's the one where Gino and Sid. Yeah, Gino and Sid going old school.
Yeah.
Right? And the Colorado Avalanche, eventually they're going to win one. So why not just put them in a parlay? Could beat the Anaheim Ducks, who obviously had a great game the other night. Leo Carlsson scoring that beautiful overtime winner for the Anaheim Ducks over the Utah Hockey Club. But this segment brought to you by Bet365, proud partner of Sekeres and Price. Canucks Conversation, and Jeff, you and I here at Rink Wide Vancouver. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code VANBONUS when opening an account. That was the Colorado Avalanche and the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Jacob coming through with the lifeline for you there.
Saving me.
Hey, the Canucks win for the first time, and that means we are going to check out Rink Wide Worldwide for the first time here in the regular season. We did this through the playoffs. It won't be a nightly feature as we go through 82 games, but we love to know where you're checking out the live stream. It's a big world out there, and we know that there are a lot of Canuck fans, and they're not all here in Vancouver proper. So the guideline is, outside of the Vancouver viewing area, we're not looking for people that live like in East Van, but we want to know, like not Metro Van, basically anywhere beyond the boundaries of Metro Vancouver. Drop us a note in any of our social channels in the live conversation as well on the YouTube stream, and you can see right there, Jersey.
Yeah. Well, for sure, there's 2 there.
Yes.
No, a couple brothers watching the other brother.
Yeah, no doubt. Stockholm. Yeah, wouldn't not surprised to see that there are some Swedes that are checking out Canucks post game here on Rink Wide. Singapore, and I'm never surprised at the interest level in the Vancouver Canucks down under. You see Melbourne there. I'm sure one of many in Australia, and we thank you all for checking us out. And again, just take a moment, drop us a line, and we will add pins as we go here throughout this lengthy hockey season. We'll check in sort of on a weekly or maybe 5 games, whatever the case. But Rink Wide Worldwide, a presentation of the Vancouver Whitecaps, who are finishing up their season and then heading into the final regular season match against Real Salt Lake on Saturday. And it's coming down to the wire with decision day looming. The Whitecaps have officially clinched a playoff spot. That much we know. Playoff tickets are going to go on sale shortly. And as listeners and viewers of Rink Wide Vancouver, you can get in on the exclusive pre-sale by texting CAPS to 604-305-4530. Again, text CAPS to 604-305-4530. And for more information on the Caps and the playoffs, visit whitecapsfc.com. All right, JT Miller wins it in overtime after Quinn Hughes had scored his first of the year in this bid to get to 20 or more, had 17 goals last season. I'm not going to bet against him. When he puts his mind to something, we saw what he was capable of last year. And Teddy Bluger, with his second of the year, they were the goal scorers for the Vancouver Canucks. Jesper Boquist and Anton Lundell scoring for the Panthers, who were without Alexander Barkov and Matthew Tkachuk. Barkov's back skating, so that's good news for the Cats. And Tkachuk is supposed to be back early next week. But if you're the Canucks, hey, get a game against the defending champs out of the way early with 2 of their best players out of the lineup. They had to work for it, but in the end, I do think that the better team on the night won this hockey game.
No, absolutely. And I think the Vancouver Canucks, we watched, their games, obviously the first few that they had. And I think this is the one where we can say that they deserve to win this hockey game. They went out and took care of their business, and they got goalied in the third period by an all-world goaltender. But in the end, you have your defenseman, your superstar defenseman make a super heads-up play, realizing who's on the ice, and your heartbeat, JT Miller, coming down the ice and being able to do what he does best, and that's put the puck in the net in overtime.
Final shots, 32-28 for the Canucks. Again, they go 0 for the power play. That is something that they're going to have to continue to chip away at. It looked good early in the season. They scored the first 2 goals of the season on opening night on the power play and thought, all right, maybe here we go again with a power play that, started the season so well last year, but then tailed off and ultimately cratered. And right now, kind of feel like we're back to the playoff power play with the Canucks for all the talk and preseason and guys saying that they understand that it's got to get better. We really haven't seen a whole lot of examples of that. Again, just 4 games into this season. Penalty kill, 0 for on the night, but good discipline, only taking the 1 penalty. And we've said it a few times, Canucks go on to Philadelphia for the 3rd stop of this road trip. Interesting scheduling. The Flyers are in Seattle tonight to wrap up a season-opening 4-game road trip. Canucks will get to Philly well before the Flyers will. Canucks will fly out of South Florida tonight, I would imagine. Flyers, at the end of a long trip like that, they may overnight in Seattle.
And take their first flight out.
Yeah, so it'll be the home opener for the Philadelphia Flyers. That'll come with some emotion. We saw that the way that Tampa came out of the gates on Tuesday, and their delayed home opener. So something for the Canucks to be mindful of the very least. And they know how hard Philadelphia played. They saw that firsthand last week when Philly beat them in a shootout. So that's coming up next on Saturday. Again, you're getting the day off, but we'll push on in your absence with Patrick Johnson from Post Media. And if you're going to the watch party, I'm going to try to make an appearance beforehand, but I can't stick around for the game because obviously you got to get back here to the studio to watch and then host Rink Wide Vancouver. So, Irf, have yourself a great weekend. We'll catch up with you for the game on Tuesday.
Yes, sir.
Again, the final score here, the Vancouver Canucks defeat the Florida Panthers by a score of 3-2 in overtime. The Canucks are in the win column at long last. For Jacob Lazar, working behind the scenes for Irf, I'm Jeff again. Thanks so much. Your support means the world to us. We'll be back with another edition of Rink Wide Vancouver on Saturday after the game in Philly, but that's going to do it for this one tonight. You've been watching Rink Wide Vancouver.